Hey everybody, welcome to the GeekDad chat with Daniel Wilson. How's it going, Daniel?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm Eric Wex. I'm one of the contributors here at GeekDad and a science fiction author. So Daniel, you have a video game. How did that happen?
Yeah. So on January 7th, we released Mayday Deep Space,
Mm-hmm.
which you can find at maydayapps.com, and it was kind of a long time coming. It's sort of an audiobook slash game available on iOS. You play it on your iPhone, and it's really something I worked on for maybe a year and a half or 2 years, like one of those sort of passion projects that you and your friends fool around with, and then finally you realize one day, oh my God, like this is ready to be released. Like I
You
should
really
call.
ought to do something with this.
We got to do something with this. Yeah, I mean the basic gist of the game is that you literally answer a Mayday call, and your phone looks like a walkie-talkie. When you run the app,
Yeah.
and there's a guy who's on a derelict spaceship. It's overrun with zombie-like creatures. It's a total sci-fi storyline that's unfolding, and basically you have to guide. You have ship diagnostics, so you can see a map of the ship, and you have to guide this guy using voice commands. So you actually speak to him and tell him where to go. And as he explores the ship, you learn, about what happened, and you try to figure out how to save his life.
I like I've played it a little bit and I like that if you just follow him around, he'll tell you where to go, and there's a guided kind of story. But if you go into some of the side rooms that are open, you learn more information that you wouldn't learn otherwise. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, we hid little Easter eggs throughout, and it's kind of like the reward for exploring is not like points or achievements or that kind
Right,
of. It's actually more story.
right.
The idea is that the story is the reward. So if you go into a room that you maybe don't have to go into, you will hear a little bit something new about the mythology of the world and what's
hmm
happening.
hmm
Yeah.
Cool. So, are you hearing like I've got some kind of bells and whistles on my end? Are you hearing that on your end?
Yeah, you're kind of cutting out a little bit.
It's really irritating.
Yeah,
Welcome to Google Hangouts. It keeps telling me to upgrade now. Well, I'm in the middle of a call. That would be a bad time to upgrade.
it's the future, man.
It is the
We're living
future. I've got to do it now. Apparently, I don't know if I can make this stop. It keeps telling me to upgrade. You know what? I think if I close the group chat. So sorry, I can't see that at this point. Maybe it'll shut up.
Yeah,
All right,
no worries.
there we go. That's better. So, tell me about a little bit about the story. What can you tell me? Like, what's the premise? What's the setup that you're giving people on the story that's involved with Mayday Deep Space?
Well, there are twists, so there are definitely spoilers. All you know whenever you start out is that this character doesn't remember what's happened. He has been hit on the head or something, so it's the end. Sort of, he's trying to figure out what's going on as much as you are, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just basically found a closet that he's hiding in, and he's managed to put on like a crew uniform, and that's it. He's found this radio, and he's just radioing for help. There are 2 points in the story where you can make decisions that affect the outcome. So you can
So
play it for 4 different endings. Yeah.
nice. So there are different endings.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking a lot now because it's done quite well. So everybody
Right.
has been really nice about it because it's not a traditional video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the kind of game that you would expect on your iPhone. you
Right.
can't you can play it 4 times, but if you're really good, like if you're really good at playing video games, you can get through the game in less than an hour. And so that's like less than 4 hours of gameplay. But if you're thinking of it like Angry Birds, well, that's a ripoff because you should be able to play it for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
um,
Right.
but if you think of it as a novella, then it's
Right.
perfectly appropriate, right? I mean, a
Right.
novella takes about a few hours to read, and then you're done. So most people have kind of understood that this is like a hybrid. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking a lot now about like the second episode and the third and what I'm going to do next. And so, we're thinking about how do you do this without exponentially leading into, 128 different endings that you have to do like by the time you get to the fourth or fifth episode.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have always been a fan of the choose your own adventure video games, and
yeah.
I'm I'm the rare game player that I actually play for the story. So,
Yeah.
I love that idea of Mass Effect, right? The choose your own adventure movie, which is kind of the way I always describe that, with an action video game attached. That was just a lot of fun until they punked us on the ending where your choices didn't really matter anyways, right? But
Yeah, taking away the agency from the player is really, really a bad idea.
hey,
Um,
unless you're all a bunch of nihilists and that's what you really think anyways, so so that
well,
works.
I think they let kind of. It's funny because this is something I hear occasionally is don't over intellectualize your story.
Yeah.
Because I think that whenever you're building any kind of story, you use structure and theme and you use aids like that and you intellectualize it so that you can have something to build from. So you're not just
Yes.
looking at a blank page like make any wish you want. Well, I don't know what to do next in that case, but if I know what my theme is and I know what my lodestar is, for the whole thing, I think maybe in that situation they let the theme and structure get away with them a little, and
Yeah.
they over intellectualized it, and they forgot, or they weren't able to pay as much attention to the actual momentum of the story, and I guess that disappointed people. But
Mhm.
um, also, though, it's just hard, right? I mean, if you've spent 100 hours on something, uh, then they
You
better
want to
stick
you want
with
the
it.
reward at the end of knowing that 100 hours, even if it's just, clicking on another cow, right? You'd still want the reward at the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's how video games are. But I think more and more people are playing video games for the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this idea of, I mean, you've done what I would love to do, which is you've found a way to integrate storytelling in video games and make it so that neither of them owns the other, right? There's pieces of both there, and I really like that idea of combining the two because I think it provides you with some awesome opportunities for storytelling that you don't get other ways. So it's good.
Yeah, it's kind of like we stuck our foot in a crack in the door, and
Yeah.
now, I hope to sort of barge in
Yeah.
with my shoulder and make it more complicated and have more
Yep.
complex interactions and all that. I mean, it's
So
really just about using the newest technology to tell stories.
So how do you keep track of story arc? I mean, because one of the things that could really be interesting, or I went back and read a Choose Your Own Adventure recently, right? Love those when I was a kid. There's no story arc there, right?
Oh, they're
Because
nonsensical. They're totally like
right,
random.
but they were fantastic when you were 8. I mean, it didn't matter. They were just great, right? They were just the awesomest thing ever. Is that you got to puzzle out how to get to the ending that you wanted as you went through the book. I and
Well,
I
not
I
really,
love
right?
those.
Okay, there was like in a typical choose your own adventure story, it's pretty random whether you're going to get killed. You can't
True.
actually role play one of those. But did you
Right.
ever play this awesome game called I think it was called Lone Wolf.
No, I didn't.
This is not Lone Wolf and Cub, which is a great
Okay.
manga, but this is called I think it was just called damn, I'm pretty sure it was called Lone Wolf, and it was a choose your own adventure slash role playing game that my friends and I were addicted to in high school.
Nice.
And you kept track of your if you decided to have a fight, you literally, you rolled dice, you had a fight, and it was up to you to keep track of your stats going through this game, and you could actually role play through it. If you chose to fight versus if you chose to like use stealth, you
Yeah.
could move through the game in these ways, and that to me was always a little bit more fun than Choose Your Own Adventure, which was fun in a more of a Mad Libs kind of a way.
Right. Right. Yeah, oh, that's cool. Well,
Over your team.
but I think this is a great thing about storytelling. But I think it multiplies your problems as a writer if you want to have anything kind of intelligent for the story, because
Well,
you got like multiple arcs to keep track of and
yeah,
multiple
but I'm
different
in a good
directions. Your
spot.
story beats are all off. How are
Yeah,
you going to do that?
yeah, so I'm in a good spot with the way this works because unlike a traditional video game, you are not the character, right? The character is a totally
Right.
separate person. He's a survivor. He's on his own. You're just talking to him on a radio. So if you tell him to go down a hallway and there's a monster, I mean, he turns around and runs away. He doesn't give a
Right.
shit what you say at that point
Right.
because he's a guy, he's trying to stay alive. So his arc kind of stays the same, right?
Right.
You're not gonna like just tell him be evil and he's gonna suddenly be an evil. He is a character. He is who he is. He asks you for advice, and you can kind of guide him into making decisions that are good or bad for him.
Mhm.
Um, but his arc stays the same, which is nice because it lets me stay grounded. So you could convince him to do something dumb, like, or you could betray him even in the game, which I thought was really interesting to introduce that. I wanted to make sure that you had that ability because, again, it just emphasizes you are not the character. Normally you can't win a video game if you just run your character over a cliff because you're
Right.
running yourself over a cliff, right? But if you
Right.
decide this guy should be jumping off a cliff, then maybe that's the right decision for the game.
Right. Right. That's cool. That's great thinking. So, what else do you want to tell our audience about Mayday Deep
Uh,
Space?
Yeah, just it's not on Android right now.
Yep.
Again, like the whole inception of the game was really cool. Like I had all these ideas about a really big, awesome game that came from me studying speech recognition in grad school and me loving the movie Aliens,
Right.
um, and loving that whole dynamic of like the Die Hard dynamic where you've got the cop in the parking lot on the radio and then you've got the hero. And I
Right.
love the idea of subverting the idea so that you're not the hero, so you're the guy at the parking lot, which is so at odds with most video game experiences. So anyway, I kind of was percolating on this for a really long time, and then I happened to meet here in Portland. I met these guys who run a company called Mountain Machine,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just starting out, and like they literally would stop working on the game and go work construction jobs, or go play in their band. I mean, anything they could do to make money because I didn't have enough to like bankroll a whole company.
Right.
I just had enough to kind of like keep everything moving along every now and then.
So, did
Uh,
you just make a company?
they have their own company, and
Well,
then
but
I,
I mean,
I have my own
are
company.
they now full time because of this game?
They used the game to get into and their other work to get into
Nice.
a thing called Oregon Storyboard here in Portland. And so yeah, so then they got to go full time for I think like 4 or 6 months through OSB. And now they're finished with that. But yeah, now they've got a finished game. It's earning money in the App Store. Like we're looking at making the second episode. And yeah, I'm really hoping they're getting more work, more job offers. So yeah, I
Great.
think they've like solidified into a real. And then the other awesome sort of Portland angle is, of course, the voice acting on the game is incredible. And no offense to Mountain Machine, but my friend Nick Lambert is the one who runs that place, and he did all of the stand-in voice work. So
Yeah.
he read all the lines so that we would have something to work from,
Right.
um, before we went and got the real voice actors. And so, this was a conundrum. Like, I don't know any voice actors. What do you do, right? So we were looking at how do you hire a voice actor, and then I realized, wait, I do know the Grimm actors because they all are here in Portland. They go to the same coffee shop as me, like,
Right.
and I have met them just through the grapevine. So I managed to get these Grimm actors to come in and do some of the voice acting, and then I had played foosball with Osric Chow at Comic Con, and he's Kevin Tran on Supernatural, and like has a huge following, and he totally agreed to come down and do the voice. So again, we
That's
got
pretty
really
cool.
lucky with the voice acting and just having it all kind of come together, so that it exceeds like that bar between amateur and sort of professional, right? When
Yeah.
you have someone who's like a TV actor come in, it's just like I don't know what it is, but if I did it myself, it would be shit.
Right.
And if they do it, it's awesome, and I can't put my finger on why exactly, but thank goodness they were willing to help us.
That's awesome. So this is not your only project in the works. I mean, I keep seeing your face and Brad Pitt's together, but I know that's kind of that's something that makes you laugh. So
I'm not,
what's up with that?
yeah, I'm not hanging out with Brad Pitt or anything.
What?
I'd love to, obviously, but I'm sure he'd be really fun to hang with. But no, I'm working on a screenplay right now for Lionsgate called Alpha, which is all I can say right now is that it's kind of like a science fiction survival story. It's set in Antarctica. I had been reading a ton about Shackleton and the Endurance and all the other expeditions to Antarctica. where people get trapped in the ice and just this heavy duty, almost alien, because the environment there is so hostile. It's almost like another planet, and that
Yeah.
seems very science fiction-y to me. It's like the most hostile place on the planet, basically, unless you're going to go to like the bottom of the Mariana Trench or something. Um, so yeah, so it's a science fiction survival story set there, and yes, there are robots involved.
There
I
always must be
I
robots.
can't not have a couple good robots in there.
You
Um,
got a PhD, you got to use it, right?
gotta use it. And I'm working with a guy named Anthony Scott Burns, he's the director attached to it, and he's like a visual effects whiz.
Sweet.
So he's done a ton of commercials and short films and stuff, and like amazing. He made a commercial in order to go. It's very difficult to sell just an idea for a feature.
Right.
Uh, so I teamed up with Plan B, which is Brad Pitt's production company, and I had an idea for Alpha. I wrote a treatment. Plan B helped me, refine the treatment. Um, they have a first look deal with New Regency, so we really were hoping to sell it there.
Mm-hmm.
They brought Anthony in on the project, and then pretty soon we had this whole thing, but we needed visuals, and so Anthony literally went and shot a commercial for a fake robot, um, and did all the visual effects, a full-on soldier, amazing commercial. And we used it as a sales tool, and it's just like testament to how far you have to go in order to sell anything.
Yeah, no
And
joke.
then New Regency passed, which was I was like, what? We did all of this, but you never know, and it ended up going to Lionsgate. So
Hey, it went somewhere. That's the
yeah,
awesome
yeah,
part.
that's the important thing. And I'm also writing Earth 2 World's End for DC. So we're like on the 14th or 15th issue. They come out every Wednesday, and it's a
Sweet.
weekly series. It's going to go through next March, I guess, or through
Nice.
March. So
How
yeah.
far ahead do you write those?
Sorry?
How far ahead do you write those? There's the writer in me asking my personal
Yeah.
question.
No, I just go as fast as I can because
Yeah.
you don't tangle with a weekly series. If you
Right.
get behind, it's everybody's worst nightmare. So it's important to never let off the accelerator, I feel like, when you're doing that. So, I had two other writers, and so our routine is I break the stories. So for each page in an issue, I'll write a one sentence description of what should happen on that page,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll assign the pages to everybody. Then I'll steal some for myself, usually like 8 or 10, and then I give the pages to everybody, and then we all script it, and then kind of I go over it and try to make it all fit together.
Nice.
And then actually lately we've had another guy going over my stuff that I've gone over, like fresh eyes, named Cullen Bunn, who's an amazing writer. He did a series called Sixth Gun for Oni Press,
Yeah.
which I love, man. It's
Yeah.
such a good series. So it's really cool having him on there to go over stuff and like touch it up again. But it's super collaborative, and everybody has to be on their A game, or else you just lose track of it. Shit
Right.
falls apart.
Well,
But
cool.
yeah, and I'll be transitioning to another monthly for DC this year, although it's not been announced yet, so I don't
Sweet.
know if I can talk about it. But
So, there is one more question I have, and this is from fellow Geek Dad, uh, Jim Kelly. Jim wants to know, are you working on a third book in the Robopocalypse series?
I'm not actively writing one right now, and it's really weird for me because I'm almost always writing a novel,
Yeah.
For the last 10 years I've been, well, I mean, okay, I didn't start writing. My first novel was Robopocalypse, which I think came out in 2011, and I was
Right.
writing it in 2010 or something. So I guess for the last 5 years or so, I've
Yeah.
always been writing a novel. And what kind of happened is right now I'm in a holding pattern. I'm going to wait and see what's happening with the movie. So Spielberg is attached to direct it still. He's uh he's directing a movie called the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant.
Right.
Although if you've played enough video games, BFG is not the first thing that comes to mind. Starting with Doom, I think that stands for Big Fucking Gun, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
but but anyway, so he's filming that right now, and then when he's done with it, I'm going to be curious to see what he does next. And Robopocalypse is certainly a possibility. There's no guarantees, That I can tell you would ensure that I would move forward. Uh, but as it is right now, I have other stuff that I feel like is just sort of more in demand. So that's kind of what I'm hitting up. I'm writing a graphic novel also for DC. I'm negotiating another series based on a short story of mine called Avtomat, which
Sweet.
was in an anthology with Hugh Howey and well, it was
Right.
edited by Hugh Howey and John Joseph Adams,
Right.
called The End Is Now.
Mm-hmm.
And God, it's such a fun short story. It's basically Highlander with robots, and I've been having, you know, my brain's been going crazy thinking about all the stuff I could do with it. So,
Good.
um, thinking about developing it, but just I've moved a lot into the whole graphic novel and comic domain for a little while, and that's just where my brain's at.
That's sweet. I'm glad you're pursuing it. I'm glad you're pursuing where your brain's at. That's a very good thing.
Well, I mean, you got to walk through whatever doors are opening, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what I do. I mean, if somebody wants me to write something, then that has a lot of sway, in my mind. It's like, what are people asking for?
Yeah. I
And this
hear that.
Mayday thing was a total surprise that anyone cared. I mean, they wrote about it in the Atlantic and uh, Hollywood Reporter, and just it kind of like so many random people were interested that it's really surprised me, and it's been really great, and it's made it a viable project to keep working on, which is awesome. I'm used to battling through despite whatever people are saying
Right.
about my work.
Right.
It's really rare for me to have people just be like, "Hey, this is really fun. We love it. You should keep it up." And
It's
when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Isn't that nice? That's amazing when you're in that place where you're like people are wanting it and they're asking for more of it. That's a really great thing when it
It's a
happens to
trap.
us as writers.
Gotta be a trap.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for the end of the box canyon somewhere when that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time. I'm gonna let you go, and we'll keep this pretty
Yeah,
pretty brief here.
been great
And
chatting. And yeah, MaydayApps.com. Check it out. Let me know how you feel. I mean, I'm the one that's behind it. So if you go to Mayday
cool.
Apps and you write a letter to, the website, that's going to my inbox, and I'll be the
Nice.
one that replies. So
That's awesome.
yeah, let's
Great.
let's do it.
That sounds good. Well, let's look forward to more interactive audiobooks. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye, Eric.